Welcome to EdUxplorer, where Africa meetings the world. In this video, I will be diving into why the Nigerian junta wants to kick US troops out of the country of Niger. While Washington's policy has been rudderless since last year's coup, an American exit might not be a bad thing for the region, especially for Niger and its Africa allies who are looking to diversify their strategic partners. I will analyze this episode like you have never seen before, so without any delay, let's dive straight into it. An American government delegation recently traveled to Niger to, according to the State Department, continue ongoing discussions since August with leaders of the National Council for Safeguarding the Homeland, CNSP, regarding Niger's return to a democratic path and the future of our security and development partnership. The CNSP is the junta that took power in Niger in July 2023, in a coup that extended a trend of military takeovers in the Sahel. For the US, the Nigerian coup was the most consequential of these putsches, given long-standing and intensive security cooperation, including the presence of a major US drone base in the northern city of Agadez. The visit went poorly. Initially scheduled for March 12-13, the delegation extended its stay by 1 day in hopes of meeting Military Head of State General Abdourahamane Tchiani, but was denied. Then, on March 16th, the CNSP announced that it was rejecting the military cooperation agreements between Niger and the US. The junta has suggested that in the absence of what it considers a viable and legal status of forces agreement, referring to a 2013 document that the junta now rejects, American civilian and military personnel are no longer welcome in Niger. The Pentagon and the wider US government are working through the implications of that statement while attempting to convince the Nigerian authorities to let US personnel stay. Diplomatically, the US side appears to have stumbled in several ways. The CNSP's spokesman criticized the US for its unilateral announcement of the delegation's arrival date and composition, and said that the Nigerian authorities received the delegation out of simple courtesy and hospitality. It's also possible that the Americans inadvertently insulted their hosts by sending what the US regarded as a high-level team, but what the Nigerians may have seen as insufficiently senior. The delegation was headed by Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molly Fee, and Africom Commander General Michael Langley, and included other senior officials, such as Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, Celeste Wallander. This episode reminds me, as flashback to my years of creating geopolitical videos and talking to Africa geological experts around the world and experts in America's State Department since 2013-2023. During that time, one thing that shocked and dismayed me is that the Assistant Secretary of State, as a position, was implicitly considered within the State Department as a position equivalent in rank to an African head of state. Within state, and I assume within defense, and within Africom, senior officials are treated with extraordinary deference and sometimes fear by their own subordinates. But there is no reason why an African leader should see things that way. To be lectured at by an American official whose rank is far junior to one's own is an experience that many African officials tolerate, but it cannot be pleasant. For the Sahel's newly minted juntas, who emphasize a particular brand of sovereignty and who have not been shy about antagonizing Paris, it is not a stretch to rebuke Americans over perceived, and I would argue actual, arrogance. The delegation met Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Lamine Zein, along with senior members of Niger's junta, such as General Salifu Modi and Mohamed Tumba. But I suspect one reason the delegation could not see Tchiani is because they misread how seriously the Nigerians want to be taken. Substantively, the conversation also seems to have gone badly. According to some reports, the American officials seem to have been criticizing Niger's turn towards Russia and to a lesser extent, Iran. The junta also appears to have tired of criticism over the general's handling of the transition back to civilian rule. Criticism that is well-deserved, since no serious transition appears to be underway, but that is nevertheless unwelcome. If you find value in our videos, please smash the like button, subscribe, and share our videos to encourage our research. The episode underscores both the misguidedness of America's pre-coup policies towards Niger and the incoherence of current policymaking. In terms of pre-coup policies, Niger was a darling of American counter-terrorism in Africa, looking the other way over civilian overreach, particularly under President Mahamadou Issoufou from 2011-2021, and military abuses was long justified in the name of the partnership. But one thing for American policymakers to reflect on is why the supposed closeness of the two militaries, including long-standing relationships at the senior level, has not translated into any substantial American influence over the junta. If huge investments in training and infrastructure can evaporate with a change in political fortunes, and if those investments cannot be proven to have flattened the curve of the Sahelian insurgency in the first place, then what are they worth? In terms of current policymaking, American officials don't seem to know what they want, an ambivalence that was easily detectable during the months of foot-dragging over invoking US law that calls for suspensions of security assistance to coup-afflicted countries. The US has sometimes appeared to view the Nigerian junta more favorably, or be more desperate to curry its favor, than the juntas in Mali and Burkina Faso, again due to the massive US investments and sunk costs in Niger. Yet the US also appears to lecture Niger over democracy, Russia, and more. Perhaps the delegation calculated that the might, prestige, and resources of the US would continue to impress the Nigerians. They calculated wrong, and so achieved neither of the two contradictory pulls in US policy, advancing neither democracy nor security cooperation. I was not in the room, obviously, but it also strikes me that Africom's preferred rhetorical frames may play very badly on the ground in the Sahel now. In their annual posture statements, successive Africom commanders depict Africa as a place where outsiders, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, Russia, China, etc., cause havoc, to be opposed by a stalwart coalition of the US and its partners. This is a view of Africa that offers little room for Africans to exist other than as victims of some outside force or as junior partners to the US, junior partners within their own story. That might play well to Congress, but it did not go over well in Niamey, and it would be received even less warmly in Bamako or Ouagadougou. The juntas could also easily read how negatively they are depicted by Africom. While Africom's criticisms of the juntas are largely fair, I shared many of them, US officials cannot expect to dismiss the juntas as malevolent and incompetent, but then go to make asks of them. Col Amadou Abdourahamane said on Niger television on Saturday that the US delegation did not follow diplomatic protocol and that Niger was not informed about the composition of the delegation, the date of its arrival, or the agenda. He added that the discussions were around the current military transition in Niger, military cooperation between the two countries, and Niger's choice of partners in the fight against militants. Since seizing power in July 2023, the Niger Junta, like the military rulers in neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, have kicked out French and other European forces and turned to Russia for support. Niger regrets the intention of the American delegation to deny the sovereign Nigerian people the right to choose their partners and types of partnerships capable of truly helping them fight against terrorism, Abdourahamane said. Also, the government of Niger forcefully denounces the condescending attitude accompanied by the threat of retaliation from the head of the American delegation towards the Nigerian government and people. Abdourahamane stopped short of saying US forces should leave, but he alleged their status and presence was illegal and violated constitutional and democratic rules because, he claimed, it was unilaterally imposed in 2012. He said Niger was not aware of the number of US civilian and military personnel on its soil or the amount of equipment deployed and, according to the agreement, the US military had no obligation to respond to any request for help against militant. In light of all the above, the government of Niger revokes with immediate effect the agreement concerning the status of United States military personnel, civilian employees of the American Department of Defense on the territory of Republic of Niger. Going forward, one thing to watch for advocates of restraint is whether and how easily the US can pivot out of Niger. It may turn out that the drone base there, billed as essential to the fight against Sahelian jihadism, is not so essential after all. The critical question to ask will not be whether things get worse. Security has steadily degraded since approximately 2015 in many parts of the central Sahel, but whether there is any proof that the presence or absence of vast American military expenditures makes any discernible difference. The US may yet salvage something in Niger, but if it exits, that will not necessarily be a tragedy for Nigerians or Americans. And sadly, US policy incoherence and diplomatic missteps may have squandered, for the medium term, whatever opportunity had existed to place meaningful pressure on the junta over democracy and human rights. Let us know what you think with regards to Niger and United States of America, strategic relations, and the broader Sahel regions of West Africa. With the presence of Russia and China in the region, I think things are just warming up. Leave us your comments and keep the conversation going, and bye for now.